Have you ever walked away from a conversation, not feeling heard, not feeling respected, but feeling drained? You didn't argue. You didn't explode. You didn't even try to prove your point. But something inside you whispered, that was not a conversation. That was a leak. Here's the truth no one tells you. Intelligent people don't avoid conversations because they're weak. They avoid them because they've learned, painfully, that some words are not bridges, they're bait. Some dialogues don't exchange insight, they exchange energy. And what you lose in those moments is not just time, it's clarity, it's your internal equilibrium. In a world where dopamine drives attention and everyone has something to say, intelligent people have discovered the ultimate act of self-respect: selective silence. They don't engage to be polite. They don't explain to be liked. They don't entertain conversations that begin as questions but end as traps. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if it's not true, don't say it. If it's not useful, don't hear it. That's not just philosophy, that's strategy. This video is not about being distant, it's about being discerning. Because real intelligence doesn't show up in how much you speak. It shows up in how skillfully you choose when not to. Today we'll walk through 8 types of conversations that intelligent people avoid, not out of fear, but out of quiet precision. Each one is subtle, each one is seductive, and each one, if left unchecked, can silently erode your peace. Let's begin. The first conversation intelligent people avoid is the one that pretends to be a debate, but is actually a trap. At first, it sounds innocent. Let's discuss. I just want your opinion. I'm open to hearing both sides. But within minutes, the ground shifts. You're no longer exchanging ideas, you're defending your identity. It's no longer about truth, it's about who wins. And suddenly, it's not a conversation. It's a contest in disguise. Here's what most people miss. Not every debate is about discovering truth. Some are performances, some are ego sports, and some are emotional ambushes designed to make you react, not reflect. This is where intelligent people differ. They don't step into the ring unless the ring is real. They don't engage unless the intent is clarity, not control. Because they've learned something subtle. When someone is arguing to be right, they've already stopped listening to be wise. So they choose silence, not out of fear, but out of discernment. They know that truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't bend just because someone else is louder. You see, there's a hidden cost in every unnecessary argument. It's not just your energy, it's your alignment. It leaves you agitated, distracted, pulled into someone else's turbulence. And the most dangerous part? You walk away thinking you stood your ground, when in fact, you were pulled off center. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." That's the power of restraint. Intelligent people don't avoid debate because they're timid. They avoid it because they've outgrown the need to wrestle with noise. They know when a conversation will lead to clarity and when it will lead to chaos. And they walk away from the latter with quiet elegance. So next time someone throws a line like, "Well, let's talk about it. Surely you're not afraid of a real discussion." Take a breath, feel your center, and remember, not every invitation is worth accepting. Not every platform is built for truth, and not every voice deserves your stillness. Sometimes the most intelligent thing you can say is nothing at all. The second conversation intelligent people avoid is one that masquerades as bonding, but slowly poisons the room. Gossip. It starts as a whisper, a shared smirk, a raised eyebrow, a "Did you hear what she did?" And before you know it, you're swimming in someone else's story. Not to understand it, not to heal it, but to dissect it, to judge it, to enjoy the tiny thrill of standing on a higher ledge and looking down. It feels like connection, but it's not. It's an emotional transaction paid for with someone else's dignity. And the worst part? You always leave with a residue. You never feel clean after gossip. You feel clever maybe, included temporarily, but never clear. Intelligent people sense that instantly. They know gossip is not just a social activity, it's a mirror of your own inner chaos. The need to talk about others is often the inability to face your own silence. Seneca once said, "He who indulges in empty talk loses a part of himself." And gossip is never full. It is always empty. It fills the moment but empties your integrity. You see, gossip doesn't just speak about the one who's not present, it reveals the one who's speaking. It says, "I don't know how to handle this emotion, so I'll project it onto someone else." It says, "I want to bond with you, but I don't have the courage to use truth or kindness." That's why intelligent people opt out, gracefully but firmly. They don't shame others for gossiping. They simply don't join in. They might change the subject, ask a deeper question, or offer silence as a soft barrier. Because silence too is a response, one that honors both parties and the absent third. More importantly, they realize this: when someone gossips to you, they will likely gossip about you. And that moment of mutual poison becomes tomorrow's regret. There's a strange kind of hunger that gossip feeds, the need to feel superior without doing the inner work. But intelligent people have tasted it and walked away. Not because they're better, but because they're busy becoming better. So the next time someone leans in, lowers their voice, and offers a juicy detail wrapped in a laugh, pause. Notice the hook, feel the tug, and choose stillness. You're not missing out by not knowing what they did. You're preserving what you are. The third conversation intelligent people avoid is the one where you feel the invisible urge to perform. The identity-proving talk. It's subtle. It doesn't sound like a battle. It often begins with, "So what do you do?" "Oh, really? How does that work?" "Interesting. But is that even stable?" And just like that, the air changes. Suddenly, you feel the need to justify your path, to explain your choices, to prove that you are competent, credible, and enough. But here's what makes this trap so dangerous. You don't even realize you've stepped into it until you've talked too much, until you've overshared, until you've traded your stillness for validation. You see, not every question is curiosity. Some are subtle audits. Not every silence is listening. Some are loaded with judgment, waiting for you to fill the void with proof. And in that moment, when you feel the need to show how smart you are, how enlightened you've become, how different your journey is, you lose something, not your confidence, your peace. Because authentic power doesn't explain itself. It just is. It doesn't prove. It doesn't pose. It doesn't perform for applause. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because the need to be understood by everyone is the beginning of inner slavery. Intelligent people understand this trap. They've stepped into it before and left feeling fragmented. So now they stay grounded when challenged. They don't dance to the rhythm of implied disapproval. They let their path speak for itself and allow others the space to misunderstand them without flinching. Because they know this. Not everyone deserves access to your why. Some questions are just entry points to pull you out of yourself. Some conversations aren't about knowing you, they're about measuring you. So instead of proving, they pivot. They respond with clarity, not complexity, with brevity, not performance. Sometimes they simply smile and offer silence as their answer. Because silence doesn't mean they don't have a story. It means they've outgrown the need to narrate it for those who won't listen anyway. So next time you feel the pressure to explain why you think differently, live differently, walk your own strange path, pause, feel the urge rise, and let it pass. You are not a resume. You are not a philosophy pitch. You are not a product to be sold in the market of small minds. You are a process in motion, and the moment you stop proving, you start evolving. The fourth conversation intelligent people avoid is the one that sounds like curiosity but feels like interrogation. It's not a dialogue, it's a setup. A covert control conversation. It starts with a soft tone, a friendly question. Why didn't you reply earlier? I'm just wondering, do you really think that's wise? No offense, but don't you think you're overreacting? But behind those words lies something else. Control. These aren't questions seeking to understand. They're questions designed to corner. And you're not in a conversation. You're in a courtroom, standing trial for living your truth. The bait is subtle. They use concern as camouflage, politeness as a leash. They sound gentle, but it's scripted, loaded, and rehearsed. And if you take the bait, if you try to explain yourself inside their frame, you've already surrendered power. Intelligent people recognize this frame instantly because they've played that scene before. They remember the tightening in the chest, the inner voice whispering, "Now this isn't a question, it's a trap wearing manners." So they step back, not out of hostility, but out of sovereignty. They don't justify their boundaries to someone who disguises control as care. They don't negotiate their peace in the currency of polite guilt. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." And trying to earn someone's approval through explanation often costs both, because what's really at stake isn't the topic, it's your frame. When someone gets you to defend your right to say no, they've already inserted the idea that your no needs to be justified, that your peace needs to be earned. That's the trap. And that's why intelligent people avoid these conversations. They're not being evasive. They're protecting their alignment. They know when someone is seeking mutual understanding and when someone is trying to reshape them through social pressure. So what do? Sometimes they redirect. Sometimes they respond with a pause, a raised eyebrow, and a soft, "I don't engage in that kind of dialogue." And sometimes they let silence speak volumes, because not everything deserves a defense, and not every frame deserves a reply. So the next time someone asks you a harmless question that suddenly makes you doubt your own clarity, pause. Ask yourself, do they want connection or control? Then choose wisely, because intelligent people don't fight to keep the conversation friendly. They walk away to keep their freedom. The fifth conversation intelligent people avoid is the one that begins with a simple request, but spirals into endless justification. It's what I call the justifying spiral. You set a boundary. You say, "I won't be able to make it." You say, "This doesn't feel right for me." You say no, and then it begins. "But why not? Are you sure you're not overthinking? Come on, it's not that big of a deal." Now you feel the pull, the invisible compulsion to explain, to soothe, to make it sound valid enough so they'll accept your decision. But here's the hard truth. If someone needs a reason to respect your boundary, they were never planning to respect you in the first place. You're not in a conversation. You're in a courtroom again, this time defending your right to honor yourself. And the more you explain, the more fragile your no becomes. Not because you're unsure, but because you're trying to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced. That's the spiral. And it doesn't end with clarity, it ends with erosion. Intelligent people have learned to spot this spiral early. They've lived the pattern: say no, justify it, feel guilty, backpedal, resent. So now they break the loop. They don't decorate their decisions. They don't overtalk their peace. They understand that every extra sentence is often a bid for permission. And when you start asking for permission to be at peace, you've already forfeited it. Epictetus once said, "No person is free who is not master of himself." That includes mastery over explanation, because clarity is not found in overtalking. It's found in firm, kind certainty. And intelligent people know the difference between clarity and overexposure. So what do they do instead? They say no once. They smile once. And if pressed, they respond with something simple and sovereign. "I appreciate your concern, but I've made my choice." Or even better, silence laced with self-respect. Because not every no needs a backstory. Not every choice needs a TED Talk. And not every discomfort in others must be comforted by you. Intelligent people protect their decisions the way they protect their energy. Quietly, consistently, unapologetically. So the next time someone tries to pull you into the spiral, pause, feel the urge to justify. Watch it rise and then choose not to dance. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You owe yourself a life that aligns. The sixth conversation intelligent people avoid is one that's wrapped in smiles but soaked in self-betrayal. It's the performative agreement. You've been there. You're in a room, someone says something you don't fully agree with, maybe even something that quietly violates your values. And yet, you nod, you smile, you give that polite little, yeah, because challenging it would create tension. Because disagreeing might make you seem cold, difficult, or too serious. And so you agree, not with your words, but with your silence. And that silence becomes a contract. You've agreed to perform peace while abandoning authenticity. This is the trap. It's not loud, it's not hostile, it doesn't shout like conflict, but it erodes you quietly, one polite compromise at a time, until one day you realize you've become agreeable, but not aligned. Intelligent people recognize this erosion because they've felt that subtle ache before, the moment when smiling felt like lying. They've walked away from conversations thinking, why did I say yes when everything in me whispered no? So now they pause. They don't perform just to preserve the illusion of harmony, because they understand that real peace is not the absence of disagreement, it's the presence of truth spoken with grace. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. But he could have added, and if it is not you, don't pretend it is. Because pretending for comfort is a tax on your inner alignment. And intelligent people no longer pay that tax. That doesn't mean they confront everything. It means they no longer conform unconsciously. Sometimes they offer a gentle, I see it differently. Sometimes a simple, that's not how I view it. And sometimes they choose respectful silence, not as agreement, but as self-containment. Because silence has many flavors. One kind betrays, another protects. The difference? Intention. And here's what intelligent people know. Every performative agreement today becomes quiet resentment tomorrow. And resentment, left unspoken, becomes disconnection. So they stay connected to themselves, even if it costs them false closeness with others. They choose alignment over acceptance, clarity over comfort, and peace that is real over peace that is performed. So next time you feel that tug, when your gut says no but your face wants to smile, pause. Ask yourself, am I about to say yes just to avoid the weight of my no? Then breathe and remember, agreement is cheap when bought with your integrity. The seventh conversation intelligent people avoid is the one that keeps circling the past like a broken carousel. It's the let's rehash conversation. You've heard it before? Remember when you said that? I still can't believe what happened back then. Let's talk about it again. Maybe we missed something. At first, it sounds like resolution, like closure. But if you listen closely, it's not about healing. It's about replaying. Not about progress, but about pulling you back into an emotional rerun you've already outgrown. This conversation doesn't seek clarity. It seeks control through repetition. It's a covert strategy to keep wounds open under the illusion of working through them. And here's the hidden cost. Every time you re-explain yourself to someone who isn't ready to hear, you're not building a bridge. You're walking in circles. You're not deepening connection. You're deepening exhaustion. Intelligent people have lived this loop before. They've sat in rooms where the past was weaponized, where every word was turned, twisted, and time-stamped, where let's talk again became let's trap you again. So now they decline the invitation, not because they fear conflict, but because they've realized not all conflict needs a second act. Some conversations are complete, not because everyone agrees, but because clarity was reached on one side. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. But endlessly discussing what already stood in the way, that's not Stoicism. That's stagnation. You see, people often revisit the past not to understand it, but to rewrite it, to manipulate memory, to regain power through guilt. And intelligent people no longer surrender their peace for the illusion of being reasonable. Instead, they respond with gentle finality. I've said everything I need to. I'm at peace with how I handled it. I don't think rehashing it will help either of us grow. And sometimes they say nothing at all. Because silence is not evasion, it's evolution. It says, I'm no longer available for conversations that tether me to versions of myself I've already released. Because healing doesn't always require talking. Sometimes it requires ending the talk. So next time someone says, let's go over this one more time, pause. Ask yourself, is this for healing or for holding on? Then choose the present. Choose the path forward. Because intelligent people don't keep scratching the wound to prove it still hurts. They walk on and let time and silence do what words never could. The eighth conversation intelligent people avoid is perhaps the most subtle and the most emotionally corrosive. It's the guilt-drenched conversation. It doesn't begin with blame. It begins with a sigh, with disappointment disguised as concern, with phrases like, I guess I just expected more from you. I've always been there for you, but it's okay. You do what's best. I didn't think you'd change like this, but I guess that's life. These words don't ask for understanding. They ask for submission. They don't open space for clarity. They manipulate it, twisting emotion into leverage. And the trap in it works, because guilt is sticky. It doesn't shout, it seeps. You start wondering, did I really hurt them? Am I being selfish? Should I just give in, just this once? But intelligent people pause here, because they've learned that not all guilt is a signal of wrongdoing. Sometimes it's a residue of old programming, of being taught that peace must come at the price of personal sacrifice. They've unlearned the reflex that says, if someone is hurt, it must be your fault. Because here's the truth, people can weaponize their pain, not to heal, but to control. Seneca once wrote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And nowhere is that more evident than in guilt-laced dialogue, where imagination becomes a theater of obligation, and the price of freedom is feeling like a villain. Intelligent people don't dismiss others' pain, but they no longer bend to guilt that's been sculpted to look like love. Instead, they choose clarity. They say, I hear that you're disappointed, but I'm not responsible for how you interpret my growth. Or, I can understand your feelings, but I won't take on blame that doesn't belong to me. And when needed, they say nothing, letting silence protect their peace. Because guilt is persuasive, but not always accurate. And intelligent people know, if someone needs you to feel bad in order to feel close, that's not connection. It's control in disguise. So they walk away, not with anger, but with anchored grace. Not to hurt, but to honor both sides by refusing to pretend. They've traded guilt for guidance, performance for peace, obligation for ownership, because in the end, the only thing more painful than disappointing someone is disappointing yourself to avoid it. So next time you feel the quiet weight of someone's sadness morphing into guilt, pause, name it, then release it. You're allowed to choose yourself without making an apology out of it. And intelligent people do just that, softly, consistently, without guilt, and without regret. So now you've seen them. 8 conversations that the intelligent avoid, not because they're antisocial, not because they're cold, but because they've learned to protect their clarity the way others protect their comfort. Each of these conversations, the debate trap, the gossip loop, the identity performance, the covert control, the spiral of justification, the performance agreement, the endless rehash, and the guilt-soaked appeal, all share one thing in common. They disguise emotional chaos as connection. But connection without self-respect is not connection. It's quiet self-erasure. And that is something the Stoic mind refuses to participate in. You see, intelligent people don't just speak wisely, they choose when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. Because silence, when used wisely, is not weakness. It is strategy, it is strength, it is a boundary written in invisible ink. Marcus Aurelius knew this when he said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But it's not just your thoughts that shape your soul. It's the conversations you tolerate, the agreements you sign in silence, the energy you surrender in the name of being polite, agreeable, or spiritual. True intelligence is not just about knowing what to say, it's about recognizing which words are worth your breath. And so, intelligent people edit their energy, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. They don't chase every comment. They don't correct every wrong. They don't perform peace at the cost of their own. Instead, they walk away from what entangles and walk toward what aligns. So if you've been carrying the weight of old conversations, conversations that drained you, disoriented you, made you doubt your worth, this is your invitation to let them go. You do not need to revisit what you've already outgrown. You do not need to explain your evolution to those still addicted to who you used to be. The most stoic act in a noisy world isn't to speak louder, it's to listen deeply to your own integrity and honor it through presence, silence, and sovereignty. From this moment on, every word you speak can be an act of power. Every no you whisper can be a declaration of peace. And every conversation you walk away from can become the space where your truest self begins to breathe again. If this video resonated with you, if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling heavier, not wiser, then let this be your quiet confirmation. You're not alone. You're not cold. You're becoming clear. The ability to protect your energy without apology is a sacred rite of passage. And every time you say no to a draining conversation, you say yes to your own alignment. So take a breath, reclaim your silence, and let your boundaries speak on your behalf. If you found value here, I invite you to leave a comment below. Which of these conversations are you learning to walk away from? Let's build a space where clarity is celebrated, not questioned. And if you haven't already, please like this video to support its reach, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapter, and share it with someone who needs this quiet kind of wisdom right now. Because the journey doesn't end here. In our next video, we'll explore why intelligent people often disappear quietly, not out of weakness, but from a deep sense of sovereignty and strength. You don't want to miss that one. So if you're ready to go even deeper, click through to watch Why Intelligent People Disappear Quietly, and discover the powerful art of silent exits, where the soul speaks not through words, but through the way it walks away.